There comes a time in every life when silence becomes louder than words, when the people you thought would walk with you forever suddenly vanish, when hands that once held yours now push you away, when familiar voices grow distant and the places that once gave you comfort now seem cold. You ask yourself, why? Why did they walk away? Why did they change? Why did they betray me? Why did the ones I loved the most abandon me at the edge of my blessing? Let me tell you this truth, and don't you ever forget it. God removed them because you were about to be blessed. Listen to me, friend. This is not a loss. This is not rejection. This is divine protection. This is not abandonment. This is alignment. God knows what you don't know. God sees what you cannot see. And when the time comes for your elevation, for your anointing, for your breakthrough, God removes every weight that cannot fly with you. There are people who are only assigned to your struggle, not your success. They were meant to be part of your process, not your promise. And God, in His wisdom and in His timing, said, no more. You didn't lose them. They were pulled away, pulled by the hand of God, who said, this one is not fit for where I'm taking you. And yes, it hurt. Yes, it broke your heart. But don't mistake the pruning for punishment. God was not trying to destroy you. He was preparing you. He was making room. He was clearing the field. He was positioning you to receive a blessing so powerful that no impure hand could touch it, no jealous spirit could contaminate it, and no false friend could sabotage it. You see, many of us ask God for blessings, but we're not willing to let go of the baggage. We want the promise, but we don't want the pruning. But God knows the weight of His blessing, and before He pours it out, He cleans the cup. Before He builds the palace, He clears the ground. And that clearing, it doesn't always feel good, but it's necessary. Because some people were hiding their envy behind support. Some were smiling in your face while planning your fall. Some were close only because they were feeding off your weakness, not contributing to your strength. But when God is about to move in your life, really move, He begins to shake everything. He exposes motives. He unveils intentions. He causes conversations to shift and atmospheres to change. And suddenly, those who once cheered for you begin to fade. Those who once praised you now criticize. Those who once called you family now call you a stranger. But don't cry over who left. Rejoice. Rejoice that God thought you worthy of elevation. Rejoice that your name reached heaven. Rejoice that God trusted you enough to say, I am about to bless you, but first I must remove them. Some of you have been asking, why did they betray me after all I did for them? Hear me clearly. You didn't do wrong by loving them, but God did right by removing them. He saw what you couldn't. He heard what they said when you weren't around. He witnessed the hidden intentions, the silent jealousy, the quiet contempt they carried in their heart while they pretended to clap for you. And so God in His mercy stepped in because your blessing was too big, your calling too holy, your destiny too sacred to be surrounded by the wrong company. And let me say this, when God removes, He also replaces. When He takes away, He always brings better. But you must be willing to let go of what was to receive what is to come. Stop trying to resurrect relationships God buried. Stop trying to mend what God dismantled. Stop opening doors God closed. Because every person who left you created space for someone sent by God. Every voice that went silent made room for divine instruction. Every exit, every goodbye, every betrayal, it all had purpose. God never subtracts unless He's about to multiply. Sometimes the worst pain is not physical but emotional. The betrayal of a friend, the abandonment of a loved one, the silence of someone who promised to always be there. And in those moments, the devil whispers, you're not loved, you're not valued, you're alone. But hear this loud and clear. You were never alone. God was with you through every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of confusion. And when they walked out, God walked in. When they said goodbye, God said, now watch what I'm about to do. You see, blessings require a certain atmosphere, a certain level of purity, a sanctified environment. God cannot bless you fully while you're surrounded by snakes. He cannot elevate you while you're attached to anchors. So He cuts, He separates, He uproots, and we mourn the loss, but heaven celebrates the clearance, because the blessing coming over your life is so massive, so undeniable, so heaven ordained, that only the right hearts can handle it. The God is about to open doors that no man can shut. He is about to release favor that generations before you never tasted. But first, He had to clean house. You thought it was a breakup, it was a breakthrough. You thought it was rejection, it was redirection. You thought you were being punished. No, beloved, you were being positioned. And God, in His perfect knowledge, said, I must remove them before I release this. Because if they stayed, they would have tried to claim credit for your miracle. If they stayed, they would have sown seeds of doubt in your moment of faith. If they stayed, they would have clapped with one hand and cursed with the other. And God will not share His glory. When He blesses you, He makes sure everyone knows it was Him, not them, not the crowd, not the helper, but Him. And so He clears the room, He empties the space, so that when the blessing lands, no one can say, I did that, only God. But here's the challenge. Can you trust God when He subtracts? Can you praise Him when the circle gets smaller? Can you walk in faith when the road gets lonelier? Because that's where your power is. That's where the real shift happens. Not when you're surrounded by applause, but when you're alone in the quiet, trusting that God is still working, still speaking, still moving, and He is. Even when you don't feel it, even when the silence is deafening, God is orchestrating something unseen and unstoppable in your favor. There are moments when God will strip everything, friends, opportunities, plans, comforts, not to harm you, but to humble you, to remind you that your blessing is not in the hands of people, but in the hands of God alone. And once you realize that, once you grasp that God is your source, not people, then and only then are you ready for what He's about to release. You may be misunderstood, misjudged, misused, but you're not misplaced. You are in the center of God's will, and the pain you feel now will soon make sense. You will look back on this season and say, thank God they left. Thank God He removed them. Thank God I didn't settle. Because what God gave me is beyond anything I imagine. And I speak this into your spirit today. The blessing is coming. It is coming faster than you think. It is coming stronger than you expect. And when it comes, it will overtake you. But you must be ready. Don't look back. Don't chase what left. Don't beg for what God removed. Stand still, be faithful, and watch God work. There's a reason the wheat is separated from the chaff, a reason the gold is purified by fire, a reason the tree must be pruned to bear more fruit. God is preparing you for abundance. And anything or anyone not rooted in truth cannot come. God is not being cruel, He is being careful. Careful with your heart, careful with your destiny, careful with your future. Because the blessing He has for you is sacred, and sacred things require sanctified surroundings. So yes, it hurt. Yes, it confused you. But trust the hand behind the removal, because the same hand that closed the door will open a new one, a better one overflowing with purpose, peace, provision, and power. And when it opens, you will no longer question why they left. You will thank God that they did. You are not being punished. You are being protected. You are not being abandoned. You are being advanced. God has seen your tears. He has heard your prayers. And now He is acting, removing, replacing, restoring, releasing, all so you can walk into what He ordained before you were even born. There is power in your pain. There is purpose in your loss. There is victory in your valley. And God is not done with you. What He's about to do will silence every doubter, humble every hater, and restore everything the enemy tried to steal. But He had to clean the stage before the performance. He had to empty the table before the feast. He had to remove them before you were blessed. Hold your head high, dry your tears, lift your hands, and give glory to the one who sees what you cannot. Trust the process, trust the pruning, trust the removal, because your blessing is closer than it's ever been. And the absence you feel now is the greatest evidence that God is working behind the scenes. When God removes someone, it's never by accident. He doesn't operate in confusion. He doesn't make mistakes. Every exit is calculated, every detachment is directed, and every loss is laced with love. Because God knows what you need and what you don't, who is for you and who is against you. And when your name is being written on blessings that eyes haven't seen and ears haven't heard, He ensures that no unclean spirit gets close. Now, as your spirit begins to awaken to this divine truth, let this echo deep within your soul. God's removals are a sign of your preparation, not your punishment. God does not tear away to harm, He removes to refine. He does not subtract to break you down, He subtracts to build you up in strength, in clarity, and in obedience. And when He sees that your heart has remained faithful, even in confusion, even in betrayal, even in silence, then He pours out what no eye has seen and no heart has imagined. There are seasons in life when you will walk through silence so thick it will feel like the heavens have closed. People you trusted will disappear, connections you nurtured will wither, the applause will cease, and all that will remain is you and God. But let me tell you something, when it is only you and God, you have all you need. Because God alone is the source of strength, the wellspring of wisdom, the shield in battle, and the voice that never lies. Sometimes God removes people not because they were evil, but because they were limited. They could only walk with you to a certain altitude. They couldn't handle the spiritual pressure of your next level. The air gets thinner at the top. The calling gets heavier. The vision gets sharper, and the path becomes narrower. God removes them because the blessing requires isolation. The anointing demands consecration. And your next season will not tolerate lukewarm faith, divided loyalty, or shallow commitment. Do not think for a moment that God has forgotten you. That's the lie the enemy wants you to believe. The truth is, God is setting the stage in silence. He is working while you're weeping. He is building while you're breaking. He is lifting while you're learning. Because the blessing that is coming requires a level of character, discipline, and maturity that only solitude can produce. There's a sacredness in separation. God speaks clearest when the noise is gone. He trains you when the crowd is absent. He corrects you when there's no one to flatter you. And if you truly desire His blessing, you must embrace His process. If you want the crown, you must endure the crushing. If you want the overflow, you must first withstand the drought. Too many are trying to carry into their blessing the weight of relationships that are no longer part of God's will. But when God says it's over, it's over. Let them go. Do not resurrect what God buried. Do not romanticize what God removed. Some people were only sent for the storm, not for the harvest. They came to teach you, not stay with you. They were a chapter, not your conclusion. God is not only a builder, He is a protector. He removes access when there's a threat to your purpose. He closes doors when betrayal is hiding on the other side. He shuts down paths when deception waits ahead. And though we may question the timing, the truth is, God sees the full picture. He knows what lies 5 steps ahead, while we only see the next footstep. So trust Him, not your emotions. Trust Him, not your attachment. Trust Him, not your need for validation. Many blessings have been delayed, not because you weren't ready, but because you were still holding on to people who were unqualified to witness your miracle. And God, in His mercy, said, I must protect the integrity of this promise. I must separate you before I elevate you, because your blessing is not entertainment, it is divine equipment for your calling. And God cannot afford for it to be contaminated by unclean motives, fake smiles, or selfish ambition. You are not weak for letting go, you are wise. You are not cruel for creating distance, you are consecrated. When God speaks, obedience is the only right response. And when He removes, surrender is the only path to peace. Because resisting God's pruning will only prolong your wilderness, but submission brings you closer to your promised land. Think about this. Every great elevation in Scripture came after separation. The moment of testing always precedes the moment of triumph. The blessing never came without the cleansing, and that's what you're in right now, a cleansing, a clearing, a divine reset. And it's not punishment, it's preparation. God is saying, I am about to open doors you've never dreamed of. I am about to shift the atmosphere in your favor. But first, I must remove every soul that would poison the promise. Some of you are standing on the edge of your greatest breakthrough. You can feel it. The wind has changed. The season has shifted. The weight is lifting. But don't look for the old faces in your new season. Don't expect familiar voices to echo in this next chapter. God is doing a new thing with new people in a new way. And when He blesses you, and He will, those who left will wonder how you made it. Those who doubted you will witness your deliverance. Those who mocked your silence will be stunned by your success. But you won't need to explain, you won't need to justify. Your fruit will speak for itself, your peace will testify, your elevation will be your answer. Let your heart rest in this. God has not removed them to leave you empty. He has removed them to fill you with something far greater. Where there was betrayal, He will plant loyalty. Where there was manipulation, He will pour wisdom. Where there was heartbreak, He will sow joy. And where there was emptiness, He will overflow. But don't rush the process. Don't try to fill the gaps with your own plans. Wait. Wait in trust. Wait in hope. Wait in obedience. Because what God is about to place in your hands will make every sleepless night, every lonely tear, every silent prayer worth it. He is not a man that He should lie. And if He removes someone, it's because they could not carry the weight of the blessing you are about to receive. And now, listen closely, because this truth must burn deep into your heart. God's removals are not the end of your story, they are the beginning of your release. When God removes someone from your life, it's not to wound you, it's to wake you up. Wake you up from depending on man more than on God. Wake you up from chasing approval that was never meant to sustain you. Wake you up to the reality that God alone is your sustainer, your provider, your defender, your companion, your protector, and your reward. There are seasons when God must isolate before He elevates, not to punish, but to purify. God is not interested in surface-level success. He's not moved by outward appearances. He is moved by the condition of the heart. So when God sees that your heart is about to be entangled with people or relationships that will distort your focus, He intervenes. He cuts ties to preserve your truth. He removes attachments that could compromise your soul. That's not cruelty. That is the highest form of mercy. God would rather see you cry for a moment than be destroyed forever. Some people were never meant to walk with you into the land of blessing. They were assigned to your journey to teach you, test you, or sharpen you, but not to stay. And when their role is complete, God removes them swiftly and without negotiation. Because where you are going, there is no room for divided loyalty, no room for emotional parasites, no space for spiritual leeches. God will not bless you with a heavy crown, only to see it fall off under the weight of unworthy company. And when God clears a space, don't fill it with substitutes. Do not rush into new alliances to numb the ache of absence. Every space God clears is a sacred space. It is a space of purpose. Let Him fill it. Let Him order the replacement. Because when God chooses who walks with you, they will walk in alignment with your calling, not against it. They will water your spirit, not drain it. They will lift your arms, not bind your wings. Some of you are still wounded because you tried to drag people into seasons they had no grace to survive. You carried them out of loyalty, but it cost you your peace. You kept them near out of history, but it robbed you of destiny. And God, who is rich in mercy, said enough. He saw you giving love where there was no honor, trust where there was no truth, time where there was no growth. And so He stepped in, not to take from you, but to give you a future uncontaminated by counterfeit connections. It's time to see the removal not as a curse, but as a cleansing. God was cleaning your atmosphere. He was purging the surroundings. He was silencing every voice that whispered doubt when He was speaking faith, because your next chapter demands clarity. And clarity cannot come with confusion walking beside you. Some of you are stepping into positions of influence, decisions of legacy, seasons of destiny. And God had to make sure that no double-minded person had access to the gate. The truth is, not everyone can handle the blessing God is about to release over your life. They see your potential, but they don't honor your process. They want your oil, but they don't respect your altar. And God, being the righteous judge and the loving caretaker of your soul, knows how to separate the wheat from the chaff. Don't mourn what left. It couldn't stay. It wasn't built to endure the glory coming your way. You must understand, your blessing is holy. It has been preserved, fought for, protected by God Himself, and it will only land in a life that is ready, obedient, and aligned. That's why the shaking had to come. That's why the separation felt so sudden, because your destiny was on the line. And God is not casual with the destiny of those who trust Him. He uproots what you were too afraid to confront. He ends what you were too loyal to release. He tears down what you were too distracted to see was already falling apart. Let this be the moment where you stop looking backward and start praising forward. Stop replaying conversations and start reciting the promises of God. Stop mourning the exit and start preparing for the entrance. Because God is about to fill the space. The same space where betrayal lived, peace is about to reign. The same place where confusion once dwelled, wisdom is about to flow. The same emotional room where pain used to sit, joy will take up residence. You are not forsaken, you are being formed. You are not abandoned, you are being anointed. You are not broken, you are being built. And this removal, this separation, this pruning, it was necessary, it was urgent. Because the timing of your blessing is near. You are closer now than you have ever been. And when that door opens, and it will, you will walk through it lighter, freer, clearer, and with a heart that no longer clings to what God never intended to stay. There is a holy moment in every journey when you begin to understand that loss was never about what left you, it was about what God was about to bring. When the removal finally makes sense, not in the flesh, but in the spirit. When your tears have dried and your vision clears, and suddenly you realize that what you thought was breaking you was actually making you ready. Ready for the doors you couldn't yet see, ready for the favor your character couldn't yet handle, ready for a blessing so weighty that if God hadn't first stripped you of distractions, you would have had the strength to carry it. This is not the time to regret who walked away. This is not the season to question the will of God. This is the time to declare with confidence that everything removed was ordained by the one who sees the end from the beginning. God, in His perfect understanding, does not guess He decides, he does not hope. It happens. And when God makes a move, it is not to hurt you. It is to prepare the room where your next miracle will reside. You must understand the timing of God is perfect, never late, never early. And when God says someone's season in your life is over, He doesn't consult your emotions. He doesn't wait for your approval. He doesn't ask if you're ready, because obedience is not about comfort, it's about trust. God removes what you think you need to make space for what you truly need. And oftentimes that sacred removal feels like abandonment, but in truth, it is divine acceleration. If God hadn't closed that door, you would still be knocking. If God hadn't severed that tie, you would still be entangled. If God hadn't removed their presence, you would still be mistaking proximity for purpose. But God steps in, not just to rearrange your surroundings, but to align your spirit with what is holy, what is right, and what is true. God never removes without purpose. His silence is not absence. His stillness is not inactivity. Even when your world feels paused, God is always moving. The people who left didn't delay your destiny, they cleared the way for it. The betrayals that stung your heart didn't weaken your future, they protected it. Because not every battle is meant to be fought. Some are meant to be avoided. And God in His mercy will remove the fight before it ever reaches you. You may never know the conversations He shielded you from, the lies He exposed before they took root, the traps that were set but never triggered because God intervened. That's the kind of God you serve, not just a God who provides, but a God who prevents, not just a God who builds, but a God who blocks. God who will block your own plans because He sees how small they are compared to what He has designed. And sometimes in your prayers you cry out, why didn't that relationship work? Why did that opportunity slip away? Why did that person I trusted betray me? But if you could only see with spiritual eyes, you would realize God was saying, I'm not letting this stand in the way of what's coming next. There are times when protection looks like pain, when God allows your heart to break so your pride can be dismantled, when He removes people who gave you comfort so that you learn to lean on Him entirely. Not halfway, not when it's convenient, fully, constantly, desperately. Because your blessing doesn't come from man, it doesn't come from approval, connection, or applause. It comes from God alone. This is why God must purify your dependence. You cannot serve two sources. You cannot worship the blessing and the blesser. You cannot trust the vessel more than the one who fills it. So God strips everything that competes for His place in your heart. And yes, it feels lonely. Yes, it feels unfair, but it is holy isolation that makes room for holy increase. Holy stillness that makes space for sacred instruction. God removes what was loud so you can finally hear His whisper. And what He is whispering now is this: what I have for you is not behind you, it is before you. What I am about to do will make you forget what you lost. I am not recycling your past, I am releasing your purpose. You are not empty, you are being positioned. You are not left behind, you are being moved to the front, and everything that looked like a loss is going to be the very soil where your increase begins to grow. Do not fear the emptiness. Emptiness is often the birthplace of greatness. When everything else is stripped away, that is when faith becomes real. That is when your voice begins to cry out, not from emotion, but from conviction. That is when you stop pretending and start depending. And God is not deaf to your dependence. He is not blind to your burden. He sees, He knows, and He will answer. The deeper the removal, the greater the revival. God is reviving your strength. He is renewing your spirit. He is resetting your direction. And when the blessing arrives, it will come with such force, such clarity, and such abundance that you will say, had they stayed, I would have missed this. Had I held on, I would have forfeited this. Had I resisted God's hand, I would have walked right past the very thing I was praying for. And hear this. What God is preparing is not just for you, it is also for those who will be blessed through you. Your obedience will overflow. Your healing will be a testimony. Your breakthrough will be a bridge for others to cross. That's why the purification had to be personal. Because what's on you will affect what flows through you. And God doesn't want contaminated blessing. He wants pure rivers of purpose, flowing from a heart that trusts Him fully. And now I say to you, stand still and see what God is doing, even when it looks like everything is falling apart. Do not measure the movement of God by the comfort of your current situation. God's hand is strongest when it seems the quietest. What looks like rejection is often redirection. What feels like abandonment is often advancement. And what appears as the loss of man is the gain of God. Because when God removes someone, it is not because your life is being diminished. It is because your purpose is being preserved. There is a sacredness to separation, a divine mystery in every detachment that God allows. We, in our limited understanding, often weep over what left us, while heaven rejoices over what was lifted from us. We pray to hold on, and God, in His mercy, says, no, because holding on would hinder and clinging would corrupt. God knows that not everyone who starts with you can finish with you. Some were scaffolding, only meant to hold you up while you were being built. But once the structure is strong, the scaffolding must come down. You may not understand it yet. You may still be walking through the ashes of what was, asking why it had to end this way. But I declare this to your soul. God is not a God of disorder. He is a God of alignment, and in His divine alignment, He shifts people like pieces on a board, not to harm you, but to position you for something far greater than you could have planned for yourself. Sometimes the greatest act of love from God is when He says, I love you too much to let them stay, because if they stayed, they would weaken your resolve. If they stayed, they would distract your devotion. If they stayed, they would pull your heart away from what truly matters. So God steps in, and He removes, not as a thief in the night, but as a master architect, clearing the clutter to build something greater. Not all removals are losses. Some are upgrades disguised as heartbreak. God sees further than your eyes can see. He sees the end from the beginning. You may see a friend. God sees a betrayer. You may see a supporter. God sees a hidden enemy. You may see a partner. God sees a stumbling block. So when He says enough, when He says no more, you must trust His decision above your desire, because the pain of temporary loss is nothing compared to the danger of long-term misalignment. You were created for divine purpose. You were not placed on this earth to fit into every room or to be accepted by every crowd. Some removals were necessary because they were draining your vision, diluting your calling, and distracting your spirit. God needed to separate you so He could strengthen you. He needed to isolate you so He could instruct you. He needed to take you into the wilderness so He could speak to you without interference. Many of you have been wondering why the circle got smaller, why the phone stopped ringing, why the people who once praised you have now grown cold. But I tell you today, it's because God is purifying your environment. The blessing He's about to release cannot survive in contaminated spaces. It cannot be shared with those who would mishandle it. It cannot be given where honor is absent. So God made the decision to clean the space before He filled it. There are some levels of peace, wisdom, and elevation that only come when you release your grip on what God already let go. The longer you hold on to expired people, the more you delay what is divinely assigned. You cannot pour fresh oil into an old wineskin, and you cannot carry the blessing of tomorrow while dragging the broken pieces of yesterday. Release it. Let it go. Trust the hand that removed them. You see, this is a season not just of healing, but of preparation for glory. What God has planned for your life is not average. It is not small. It is not ordinary. It is marked, purified, sanctified, and sealed for an appointed time. And anything that threatens to interfere with the weight of that blessing must be stripped away. That's why the separation felt sudden. That's why the change was abrupt. Because God is not negotiating with your destiny, He is protecting it. You don't need to explain yourself to those who left. You don't need to beg for closure or chase after what fell apart. God has already spoken, and His word is final. When He removes, He redeems. When He subtracts, He multiplies. When He breaks, it is only to build better. You don't need to mourn what God has already replaced in the realm of the unseen. You just need to walk in faith until your eyes catch up with what your spirit already knows. This is holy ground. The silence you feel is not emptiness, it is preparation. The loneliness you sense is not rejection, it is sacred consecration. God is setting you apart. Because the next doors that are about to open were not meant for the crowd, they were meant for you alone. And when you walk through them, you will not need validation, you will not need applause, you will only need the assurance that you followed God and not man. Let the removal mark a turning point, not a place of pity, but a place of power, not a pit, but a platform. Because God is lifting you out of every place that hindered you and into every place that was promised to you. And when you look back, it won't be with bitterness, but with praise, saying, if God had not removed them, I would have missed what was mine. There is still more to come. The blessing has not been delayed, it's being perfected, and when it arrives, it will not come with confusion. It will come with clarity. It will not arrive in fragments, it will arrive in fullness. But only when you are willing to stand in agreement with God's decision, even when it wounds your flesh, because your spirit knows it was necessary. God removed them, not because He wanted you to suffer, but because He wanted you to soar. And now you're finally ready to fly. And now hear this with all the weight your soul can carry. When God removes, it's never without a revelation waiting behind the veil. You may not understand it when the ties are severed, when the voices go silent, when the path gets lonelier, but that's the very soil where spiritual clarity begins to bloom. It's in the tearing that truth is revealed. It's in the letting go that vision is sharpened. And it is in the separation that God finally has your undivided attention. You were never meant to blend in with everyone. You were never assigned to please the masses. There is something specific, something sacred, something set apart on your life, and that calling carries a weight that not every person is equipped to walk beside. God is not interested in popularity. He is interested in purity. And when the crowd around you begins to shrink, don't panic. Don't beg them to stay. Don't grieve over what had to be removed, because God reduces before He releases. He cuts back so that fruit may multiply. He trims branches so strength may flow to the root. There is a cleansing that must take place before glory can settle. A sanctification of your surroundings, a pruning of your partnerships, because God will not pour oil into a cracked vessel. He will not pour rivers into deserts you refuse to let go of. And He will not rain blessings on a foundation that still entertains distractions. Removal was never about who left you. It was always about who God is forming you to become. Let your spirit rise with this unshakable truth. What God removes, He replaces with something that matches your destiny, not your history. The people who walked with the old you may not have the capacity for the person God is turning you into. You're not going backward, you're being elevated, and elevation demands transformation. The same mind that clung to comfort will never hold the keys to the next door God is unlocking. So let God rewire your thinking, let Him refine your prayers, let Him reshape your priorities. His next move is not about where you've been, it's about where God is leading you. And that means some voices must go silent so you can hear the whisper of divine direction. Some doors must stay closed so that your eyes stop wandering. Some people must leave so that your heart returns fully to God and God alone. Because you can't receive your next assignment if you're still grieving your last attachment. The blessing that's coming is not ordinary. It's not familiar. It's not a recycled version of your past. It's fresh. It's divine. It's tailor-made for the soul that has been stretched, for the spirit that has been broken, for the heart that has remained faithful even when surrounded by loss. And God will not let this blessing be shared with those who doubted the process, disrespected your journey, or despised the gift He placed in you. He'll remove them because He is about to reveal what only faith can access. So don't be afraid of the empty spaces. God often does His greatest work in the gaps. The silence you feel is not abandonment, it is alignment. God is aligning your life with truth, with peace, with purpose. And sometimes the loudest move from God is the one He makes in secret. You won't always see the shift happening, but suddenly you'll wake up and realize the weight has lifted. The burden is gone and your heart is free. That is the power of divine removal. It frees you for what is holy. You must come to the place where you stop asking, why did they leave? And start asking, God, what are you making room for? Because it's not just about what was lost, it's about what's coming. And what's coming will not be small. It will not be subtle. It will not be stolen. It will arrive with evidence, with power, with unmistakable favor. But only a surrendered soul will be able to carry it. Let this moment awaken your discernment. Not every exit is a threat. Some exits are gifts. Some farewells are holy, because God knows what you need better than you do. You may have been trying to save what God was trying to sever. You may have been holding on out of loyalty, out of history, out of fear. But God, in His love, pulled it away before it could poison what He planted inside you. You see, God doesn't just want to bless you. He wants to protect the blessing within you. And protection sometimes looks like subtraction. It sometimes comes in the form of isolation. It sometimes hurts before it heals. But in the end, you will look back and say, God, I thank you. I thank you for every no. I thank you for every closed door. I thank you for every person you removed. Because if you hadn't, I would have settled for less than what you prepared. You're not being punished. You're being purified. You're not being forgotten. You're being fortified. And this process, though painful, is perfect in the hands of the one who formed you. Trust the breaking. Trust the silence. Trust the exit. Because when God takes, He only does so to give what is better, what is fuller, what is eternal. This is a holy season, a season of divine shift, a season where your soul must choose to release the past and embrace the promise. Not with doubt, not with hesitation, but with bold, relentless trust, because God has not brought you this far to leave you loved. He has not removed what you loved to leave you with emptiness. He has cleared the way so that you can walk into what eyes have not seen, what ears have not heard, and what your heart is only beginning to believe. So now stand firm. Let your heart rest, let your soul breathe, because the removal was not the end, it was the unveiling of your beginning. God, in His infinite wisdom, saw what you couldn't see, knew what you didn't know, and stepped in. Not to destroy you, but to deliver you. To deliver you from unseen harm, from silent sabotage, from hidden traps that your heart was too loyal to detect. This is not the season to mourn. This is the season to rise in strength, to rise in clarity, to rise in purpose. Let every departure remind you that God is still writing your story. Let every closed door remind you that God is still your guide. Let every lonely night remind you that God has never left your side, and though people may fail, walk away, or change without warning, God remains faithful, always. The same hand that removed is the hand that will restore. The same voice that said, "Let them go," is the voice that is now saying, "Get ready." Because what's coming will not be delayed, denied, or diminished. It will arrive in fullness, in peace, in divine power, and when it does, you will know every loss was protection. Every silence was preparation. Every goodbye was the mercy of God. So lift your eyes, wipe your tears, strengthen your spirit, because the next chapter is not about what you lost, it's about what God is about to reveal. And when He reveals it, you will understand why they had to go. God removed them because your blessing is here.